Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. So today we have a mixed media card making idea using the brand new release from WOW Embossing powder, and this video is also part of a celebration hop to celebrate the launch of these two new quads inspired by Seth Apter. I'm going to be using the building blocks quad today, but there is also the citrus quad, which is also part of the release as well. To celebrate the release, WOW Embossing are offering 3 goodie bags that include the entire June 2024 release. So just make sure you're subscribed to their YouTube channel, leave a comment on their video, and if you want extra entries, then hop through and subscribe, like and comment on the other designers that are joining the hop as well. More details can be found in the description box below this video, but let me tell you a little bit about the card that we're going to be making today. So it's going to be a mixed media card because I really kind of felt that these powders lent itself to that. And I'm going to be using this stamp set from Rubber Dance. This is the Mixed Media Marks 1 stamp set. And so first of all, we're going to get some colour down on our background. So I'm using Distress Oxides in Uncharted Mariner, Hickory Smoke, Black Soot, Speckled Egg and Salvaged Patina. I felt that these colours really went well together. They blend nicely together. And so we're just going to get all these inks down and just create a ink blended background really. It doesn't have to be perfect ink blending. We just want to get some colour down. Because we're going to be adding details over the top of this. I'm adding a little bit of black soot just in diagonal corners, and then I'm just going to come in with some salvaged patina just to kind of blend those colours together. So next I'm going to use my distress sprayer just to add some water splatters to the panel, and then that is going to be just left for a moment to react, and then we can dab off the excess with a cloth or a paper towel, and then I'm just going to clean up my desk as well before I get ink everywhere. And first I'm going to apply some of the WOW Embossing powder in the colour Concrete. So this is like a very silvery shiny kind of pale colour, and because there's still a little bit of moisture on the card panel, that powder is just going to stick to those areas. So just let your panel dry for a second before you do this, because you don't want to coat the whole panel in this embossing powder. I just want a little bit on the background for some texture. So I'm heating from underneath as well, just till it grabs, and then I'm just going over the top with my heat tool on the hottest setting, just so that that powder's fully melted. The reason I started from underneath is so that powder doesn't blow off everywhere, and you can see that it's just added a little bit of texture. Next, I'm going to come in with this grid stamp, and I'm using my WOW Embossing ink for this. So that's the clear sticky embossing ink. And then I'm going to come in and add brick embossing powder to this. So this colour's got a little hint of like browny red, almost a little bit of glitter in it as well, I think. But yeah, it just really adds to that kind of brick colour that you'd expect. So again, we're just going to heat set from underneath first so that I don't lose any of the embossing powder. And you can see there, I didn't stamp perfectly. That was intentional. We want this to have a bit of a grungy mixed media vibe to it. I'm then just using these little dot stamps that is also in that stamp set. Again, I'm using my embossing ink pad here, and I just want to frame the card just by doing that in the corners. I'm then going to go ahead and add some of the granite embossing powder, and this embossing powder has got some ultra high particles of black and red in, so again you want to heat from underneath. You don't want to blow any of those particles off. So I'm going to go ahead and heat set that from underneath first. Once the powder's grabbed, you can then come in and heat set over the top, just to make sure that you've melted all of the powder. And then the final embossing powder that I'm going to use from the quad is Asphalt. So I'm using this numbers stamp just to add, again, a little bit more interest to the background that we're creating. And I wanted the numbers to overlap, so I really like how that turned out. Next, I'm just going to heat set that again, also from the bottom, just to make sure that that powder grabs. And also, I just want to mention that on those powders, you'll see that they have the code O and M. So that means they're opaque and marbling. The only one in the quad that isn't a marbling powder is the Concrete one, which is the paler silver grey colour. So yeah, they all have a little bit of sparkling too, just like you'd expect. If you ever look at tarmac on a hot day or bricks in the sun, you can see that glisten, and these powders really capture that. So I've added a little bit of stamping just with some Memento Tuxedo black ink. I've used the Memento ink because it's a dye-based ink and I wanted it to dry fast. I didn't want to be waiting around for a pigment ink to dry, so that's why I've used Memento today. And now I've just stuck it down to a black matte layer, and then I'm going to go ahead and mount it on my white card blank. And then once we've done that, we can then go ahead and just add some finishing touches to the card. Now I've already got some elements in my stash that I've created using Nouveau shimmer powders and stencils from Rubber Dance. I've used these Sketchy Leaves 1 and 2 stencils to create these, and I'm just kind of playing around with them to see which colours match best. And I think that this one works really well with the colours that we've already got in the background. So I do decide to go ahead with that larger one, and that is from the Sketchy Leaves 1 stencil. And I think I used these shimmer powders in Meteorite, Shower and Catherine Wheel on this one. So that's going to be my focal element on the card. Now I want to add a little bit of dimension behind it, so I'm just going to use a little bit of foam tape to pop this up. If you haven't got any foam tape in your stash, you can use scraps of white cardstock just to glue a few layers together, and then you can cut them down to size and use them to add dimension. I have been doing that recently when I ran out of foam tape, and it works just fine. So it's a great way of using up those scraps. I like to add texture as well when I'm creating any kind of mixed media card. So I've just used a little bit of cotton thread there. And then once I've removed the backing tape from the foam tape, I can stick that down nice and centrally on my card front, and that will hold the cotton thread in place as well. You could add a little bit of liquid glue if you want a little bit of wiggle room, but yeah, the foam tape will hold the thread in place just fine. For the sentiment, I'm going to use the Make Your Mark stamp from the stamp set that we've been using today. And I'm just going to clear stamp it in some WOW Embossing ink and use some white embossing powder. This is the super fine embossing powder. I like to use the super fine when I'm stamping sentiments because I think it picks up all the detail really nicely. However, this is quite a bold and chunky sentiment, so the regular embossing powder, which is also very fine, would have worked perfectly for this as well. I've stamped and heat embossed 2 just in case, and I'm just going to use my mini Tim Holtz trimmer now just to trim one of those down and work out where I want to place it. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this video today. I hope that it's given you some inspiration of ways that you can use these new embossing powders from WOW. They're really, really great for mixed media projects for definite, but also all your card making techniques. There's lots of shimmer and shine on these powders, and it's just nice to have something a little bit different in your stash. So don't forget to check out the other videos in the hop. Don't forget to comment on the video that's on the WOW Embossing channel for an opportunity to win this release. All the products that I've used will be linked in the description box below, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.